So let's get right into it. If you want to build truly great products, you know it's about more than just slick code or a pretty design. You've got to understand the most complicated piece of the puzzle, your user's brain. Today, we're going to pop the hood on the brain's operating system and figure out how we can design with it instead of fighting against it.
Okay, first things first. Take a look at this image. What do you see? I'm willing to bet you see a white triangle pointing down, right? And it's sitting on top of another triangle that has a black outline. But here's the crazy part. Neither of those triangles is actually there. Seriously, all you're really looking at are 3 Pac-Man shapes and 3 V-shapes. Your brain just filled in the rest because it's an absolute master at finding patterns and connecting the dots. This little illusion shows us something huge. Your user has what you could call a glitch. But listen, this isn't a bug, it's a feature. See, our brains are getting hit with something like 40 million bits of information every single second. To cope, they have to take shortcuts. They make these quick, educated guesses based on everything we've ever seen before just to make sense of the world. And understanding those shortcuts, that is the secret to amazing design. And that's exactly why we're calling this the brain's operating system. Just think of all these psychological rules as the default code that's running in the background for every single user. You wouldn't try to run software without knowing the OS, right? Same thing here. So let's break down 3 of the most important modules in that system.
First up, the visual processor. You know, about half of the brain's entire resources are dedicated just to seeing and making sense of the world. But here's the key. What our eyes send to the brain and what the brain actually sees can be 2 totally different things. It's all about interpretation.
And that brings us to a super important idea in design, affordance. And affordance is basically a clue that an object gives you about how to use it. A doorknob just looks like it should be twisted. A coffee mug handle just begs for you to put your fingers through it. These things tell us what to do without ever needing an instruction manual.
And we see this all the time in the digital world. You know when plain black text is secretly a link? That's got terrible affordance. There's 0 clue you can click on it. But blue, underlined text, or a button that has a little shadow to make it look raised, those have great affordances. They basically scream, "Hey, click me," without saying a single word. It makes everything feel intuitive.
All right, let's jump to our second module. This one is all about memory, or as we can think of it, the brain's super limited memory cache. If that visual processor was the GPU, this is the RAM. And trust me, it's a lot smaller than you probably think.
So, I've got a question for you. I'm sure you've heard that old saying, the magic number 7, plus or minus 2. The idea that people can hold about 5 to 9 things in their short-term memory at once. But is that actually right?
Well, the short answer, based on a whole lot of modern research, is nope. Turns out that old 7 plus or minus 2 thing was more of a professional hunch than a hard scientific fact. The real number, the one that modern studies keep landing on, is much smaller. It's 4. That's it. Your brain's working memory can reliably handle about 4 chunks of information at any given time. Anything more than that, and things start getting dropped. So what do we do? How do you design something for a user who's basically juggling with a 4-item limit? You can't just throw a wall of text and options at them. The answer is this brilliant design technique called progressive disclosure. The whole idea behind it is actually really simple, but so powerful. First, you show only the absolute essentials, just what the user needs to get started. Then, you let them ask for more information if and when they need it, maybe by clicking a Learn More link or an Advanced Settings button. By breaking everything down into these small, bite-sized pieces, you dramatically lower the mental effort, what we call cognitive load, and it just makes the whole experience feel simple and easy.
Okay, on to our third and final module, the attention filter. In a world that is just screaming for our attention 24/7, our brain has developed this incredibly powerful bouncer at the door of our mind, deciding what gets in and what gets totally ignored.
You know, we like to think of our attention as this spotlight that we can just point wherever we want. But it's way more accurate to think of it as an automatic filter. This filter evolved over thousands of years to prioritize whatever was critical for our survival. So as designers, our job isn't to try and force users to pay attention, is to give them information in a way that just naturally slips right through that filter.
So what gets past the bouncer? Well, research has shown there are 6 things our brains are just hardwired to notice. Things like danger, food, and sex, those are no-brainers for obvious evolutionary reasons. But it doesn't stop there. We're also wired to notice movement, to lock onto human faces, and to get drawn into compelling stories. When you see these things used in an app or a website, it's a direct and very effective appeal to that built-in attention filter.
So we've looked at the visual processor, the limited memory cache, and the attention filter. What does all this really add up to? Well, it means we need to upgrade our entire approach. We have to stop thinking about just designing screens and start thinking about designing for actual real-life humans.
And honestly, that's the big takeaway. You cannot change your user's operating system. You can't make them see something that isn't there, you can't force them to remember 10 things at once, and you can't make them pay attention to something they find boring. The absolute best, most intuitive, and most loved products out there don't fight these human fundamentals. They lean into them. They design for the brain's OS, right from the very beginning.
So I want to leave you with a challenge. Thinking about everything we just talked about, clear affordances, the rule of 4, and that attention filter. What is one feature in a project you're working on right now that you could simplify to make it work better with how the human brain actually operates?